Hey, what is up guys? Guitar here, welcome back to another Brave 9 video. Alright, today we're gonna talk about all the mercenaries coming out in April. Who should you invest in or on? I'm gonna give you guys a guide on who would be most beneficial to your team currently. Obviously with the conditions, and obviously none of the units that are released in April are bad, right? So a lot of them just have substitutes and replacements coming later, so we have to take that into consideration. And do keep in mind, again, everything you're about to hear right here is my own personal opinion. All right, so it's not a guaranteed fact, so keep that in mind. So what you're about to hear is just my opinion based on my experience and based on the skills that I found out that these units will have. Okay, so with that being said, let's dive into each and every single unit we have available in April. Now, first things first, let's talk about the current units we currently have. First week of April. So this is who we have currently. We have Yuri. Alright, so Yuri is, where is she again? Yep, right here. Alright, so Yuri is already pretty much a known mercenary, and pretty much every one of us already know what she's capable of. And obviously we have Freesia and Xenon. Okay, let's talk about Yuri first. Currently, if you haven't built Yuri, should you invest in her? Alright, this is going to be solely my opinion. Yuri is a very strong unit. Alright, so she's not a bad unit by any means, but she needs a lot of investment. I would say plus 12 is pretty good stopping point. Obviously, if you go above that, the value diminishes, but plus 12, it's great. Like, you get to block any attacks twice. Not this skill right here, awakening skill. Alright, it's essentially a death guard right here at plus 12. But what I don't like is that you have to go all the way to plus 12. If you go to plus 3, plus 6, you don't get the incremental upgrades that will provide her the firing power that she needs, which is upsetting. Usually, on most mercenaries, they get a decent jump from plus 3, plus 6, plus 9, and then plus 12. But for her, you don't seem to get much, which is unfortunate. Like this skill, you get healing at plus 6, like, she don't really even need those. So my thoughts on her is, like, after testing her for one whole week, using her in arena at plus 0, I would say she's a good unit, but you don't have to invest in her. Alright, so she's definitely workable at plus 0. Now this is speaking from my perspective of using her over the course of 1 week. Obviously, I'm not sure how she can stay in the meta at plus 0, right? So maybe I'll continue to use her this week and see how it goes. But she's a decently good unit with nullifier. She can be used to counter Albion and a lot of units. If you are using her specifically to counter Albion, you don't really need her to skill up. My Yuri at plus 0 she consistently kills Albion. Alright, she has never failed to do so. Just one buff from Refitia. Obviously, if you want, you can double buff her, but most of the time it's going to be more than enough. So if your purpose is solely for countering teams with Albion, skilling up all the way is a waste. Now, obviously, at plus 12, again, like I mentioned, you do get one more protection of this hunting instinct, which means that she can take one more source of damage, which is cool, right? But that's a lot of investment, alright? Plus 12, depending on how lucky you feel. Now, should you get her up to plus 12? So there's a couple of options right now for you. So this is all my opinion. If you already gotten your Yuri to plus 12, plus 13, plus 14, sure, you already know that you are eyeing on her. You have been saving up your diamonds for her for a long time. I mean, it's just more for players who are still on the edge of deciding whether or not they want to build her. And if you're still deciding whether or not you want to pull her, if you have her at plus 0, she's definitely usable at plus 0. You don't need to scale her up. Alright, I would say save your diamonds for Octos. Now, a lot of players are pulling for her. I'm not going to deny that. I see a lot of Yuri in arena, which is insane. But here's the thing, we know what's ahead in May. Alright, so everyone and their mom knows that the Octos are coming. Plus 15. Alright? So just wait for a bit. Just hold off the temptation. Don't need to pull for her. You don't really need her. Yes, you might suffer for 1 week in arena with Albion formations, but just take it, man. Just suffer for 1 week. Don't let your temptations conquer you for that. Alright, so the Octos are coming. Like, I've heard time and time again players complain they cannot climb in arena. They're always struggling with enemies legendary, enemies grand, and enemies have 4 or 5 legendaries even in silver and gold league. Okay, so if you have been in that position before, right now my advice for you is to save. We have the advantage, alright? So a lot of players will say Korea have the advantage because they are a longer server. But right now, we have the advantage because we know the Octos are coming. We know what's ahead of us. So when you have the option, you know what's ahead of you. Why are you not taking advantage of that, right? So why are you pulling for Yuri now? Just to guarantee that you can stay in whatever ranks that you are, or you want to climb for just a couple of weeks. Now, is it worth it? I would say no, not really. So from my point of view, again, this is just my opinion. Don't get offended if I don't share the same ideology with you guys, alright? Because the Octos are coming. And I do think that it makes sense for the Octos to be pretty strong. It makes sense. Just wait for the Octos skills, alright? So just wait for Seto, Beliaf, Lucius, Livia. Wait for their skills to be released before you invest in Yuri. Like every single diamonds that you have. Now, if you are pulling Yuri using your premium scrolls, that's fine. Go ahead, right? Just use premium scrolls. But do not use diamonds. Never use diamonds for her. You're gonna need as much diamonds as you need. Whenever the Octo companions come, you're gonna need those diamonds to get as much PT Octos as you can. If you're not lucky, hopefully all of us will get lucky and pull as many Octos as we can. But you know that's not how it works. So if the Octos happen to suck, if Seto happens to be the worst warriors and Beliaf happens to be subpar still, then you pull for Yuri. Alright, so Yuri is gonna be around in the banner. Don't worry about her disappearing anytime soon. But for now, I would say she's a solid unit in the arena for sure. But I don't really think you need her at high skill level. Okay, so next up, let's talk about Freesia for a bit. Now, Freesia is a bit slightly complicated but also more straightforward. There's a couple of conditions of whether or not you should be pulling Freesia and whether or not you should try to not pull for Freesia. So, if you look at her skills, where is her skills? Right here. Okay, so this is basically her damage skills. It comes from here. Advanced Furious Strike, where she deals enemies current HP times 125% additional damage. Makes sense. Freesia is a mage. She needs 2 turns to charge up, obviously, unless she dies and happens to resurrect with her skill charge up. Most of the time, I would say in arena setup, it's kind of hard for that to happen, depending on how you set up your formation. But you might be able to control that better in Guild Wars or in the underground arena. I'll have a video coming out on that soon. But you have a couple of options or replacements for Freesia. Alright, so number 1, I would say don't pull for her if you are an Asmode user. If you already have Asmode plus 6 can pretty much do what she does. Obviously, they are kind of different. Asmode is a supporter. Okay, so if you think about it, Asmode can do what she does most of the time. And Asmode doesn't need to take a turn every single time. Very similar skill. Obviously, the percentage of current HP times additional damage from Freesia is gonna be way higher compared to an Asmode. But if you somehow already have an Asmode plus 6 somewhat in your inventory, then there's no need for you to pull for Freesia. Now, another condition is if you have a Livia already. Now, Livia is obviously one of the Octo companions that will be getting her companion, right? So, I would say if you have Livia at plus 10, for example, she pretty much can do almost everything that Freesia can, obviously. Almost. I said almost because Freesia still have like resurrection where Livia does not. Livia will just die instantly. But then again, in terms of consistency, Livia has it all, right? Damage wise, it's more of pros and cons between both of them, but they are very similar in a lot of ways. So I would say if you already have a Livia in your inventory somewhat, you gotten lucky, then Freesia is not something that you need for now. Now again, I feel like Freesia is in a similar spot with Yuri, where they are both very solid at plus 0, which I wasn't expecting at all. So in fact, I'm gonna like, hopefully I will make a video on how strong she is soon, but based on my testing, she's a really solid unit. Definitely take advantage of that. If you don't need the skill level, just don't waste your diamonds, alright? If you want to pull her using scrolls, that's fine, alright? Premium scrolls is fine, but if you are going to use diamonds, I would suggest against doing that. Definitely not now, but if you really want to, you can pull her later down the road once the Octo skill has been released, once you have a better understanding of what you actually need in your team composition. Okay, so next up, do I even need to talk about this guy? Nah, skip. Alright, I've already done a video analysis talking about him, so hopefully you guys go check that out. I'll try to link it right here as well. Okay, so I would say this guy is a skip for sure. Reasons already stated in that video. Alright, so moving on, next we have Kelleron. Now this gets interesting, alright? So I'm going to pull up a bunch of skills here. This is from the Book Brown Dust app. Obviously the Korea version, we're going to check it out, the skills. Okay, so we're going to talk about Kelleron. Presumably she will come in about 2 weeks time. So what is, or I think 1 week time. Yeah, what is Kelleron all about? Okay, so Kelleron is a hyper buffed defender which has very good offensive capabilities. Alright, so she's a very unique one. Obviously she has more offensive power than most tanks out there. So what she has is this unique skill right here. It's called damage distortion. So this skill is a very unique skill that's unique to her alone. Alright, so no other units on the entire mercenary roster right now have this skill. So it's basically, it divides the damage that you receive in forms of DOT. Alright, so distorted damage cannot be distorted again. So right here you can see, so damage converted by damage distortion is taken as fixed damage every single turn. So let's say if you take 20,000 damage from add-in, so that damage will be divided throughout in 10 turns, so you are basically receiving less and less, which is insane because if you have something like healing, it's gonna help you to not die. Alright, so healing does mitigate that, which she has, basically 9% recovery every turn. So your damage that you receive overall will be divided into DOTs, fixed DOT basically, throughout in a number of turns, and in this case 10 turns I believe. It's a really cool concept. I actually like it a lot. So next up she have basically this skill right here, which is Artfulness. This is what makes her a very strong tank, which also can deal damage because it increases her crit rate by 60%, which is very high, and also crit damage by 100%. So she's gonna have the offensive power. Alright, similar to Benshina, which I really like. I'm a big fan of Benshina. She does so much damage. It's insane. Alright, and then of course, she has this skill. This is where it's gonna get interesting because this skill is similar to Asmode's skill. In fact, the modifier is exactly the same if I'm not mistaken. Enemy's current HP times 45% additional damage, which is insane. Alright, considering that even though she can only hit one tile, only one enemy at a time, but still to have this kind of offensive power is crazy, and she will restore her HP from the normal attack. Okay, so here's my thoughts on Kelleron, right? Should you pull for her? I would say no. Hard no. Alright, for Kelleron, if you pull her right now, it's a waste because Lucius, we all know Lucius is coming. We all know what Lucius can do, right? So there's no need for me to talk much about Lucius. Lucius is getting a companion soon, and obviously you can tell that Kelleron is a very strong defender, so is Lucius. So Lucius is still the best defender by far. Death Guard is still, most of the time, it's still a better option most of the time. Alright, I mean obviously multi-hit units like Christina puts Lucius in a very tough spot in the meta, but other than that, Lucius is still really solid. There's always a way to counter by positioning Lucius in a different manner. So Lucius is always still the best tank, and you don't need much investment at all. Whether you like it or not, Lucius +0 is still the best tank. Alright, you don't even need him to be awakened. Plenty of players, like top players, have Lucius in their team at +0. Obviously +10 is going to give you that extra death guard, but you don't really need to. So Kelleron on the other hand needs +15, and is that worth the investment? Right now? Like, no. For Korea, When this unit first came out in Korea, they did not know that the Octo is gonna get their companion or get rework. But we, for all of us in all the other servers right now, we have the advantage of knowing that in advance. So you know that Lucius is gonna have companion. So do you still want to try to get Kelleron? I don't think so. Like, come on. I'm pretty sure Lucius is gonna be a better tank. Even without companion, Lucius at +0 is gonna do just fine. And most of the time we'll be able to fit that similar role with Kelleron. I mean, I can see some unique strategy where Kelleron is gonna be better, but there's not much situations where you will be able to see that. So yeah, at first I was thinking of recruiting Kelleron myself to do like the Albion Kelleron combo or something, but then the more I think of it, like, why am I even doing that? Like, Lucius is coming, and most likely Lucius will be a better defender overall. So yeah, it's kind of hard to recommend Kelleron at all. Like, no matter what kind of player you are, unless you are a collector, you are a whale, you just want to like build every single units out there, then that's fine. But for any normal players, like if you're free to play, I feel like it doesn't make sense for you to invest in Kelleron. Even if you do not have Lucius, right? You should save up your diamonds and try to risk pulling Lucius in the Octo banner. You know, use that diamonds and try your best to try to get him. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Okay, so Kelleron will be appearing on the same banner with Exile. Now, Exile is a very unique one. I'm actually happy that Exile exists. Alright, so the reason why is because Exile fits the niche of a new concentrated fire unit, which I really find extremely interesting. So let's have a look at Exile's skill at +15. If you look at Exile, he does have this incredible X-Tile range, alright? And it's actually a hit. So this is a skip and busty, alright? So I don't know why is it busty, but maybe it aims for enemy's booty or something. So this skill is called Attack Busty. Very cool marker skill. I think it works similar to Stigma, or most likely it's just Stigma. It's just its translation is not completely, it's not properly done yet. Alright, so basically what this does is it will engrave the enemy with this Stigma skill, and when the duration ends, they will receive a maximum HP of percentage of additional damage, which is insane. Alright, and then obviously 12 turns. Alongside with that, he also gains, he recovers his HP basically, and he gets 65% defense for 12 turns when an enemy dies. Sounds familiar? He also has 10% base defense. So that means he only need one shield rune, 25%, to add with the 65 plus his 10%, 75% defense to give him 100% defense. Alright, extremely familiar, right? Don't worry, we'll talk about that later. Next, we have Advanced Concentrated Fire. So this is what makes his skill extremely unique. He will be able to apply Concentrated Fire on the enemy 10 turns, also reducing their stats by 20%. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And then stats weakening immunity basically. Alright, so also have the ability to reduce incoming damage by 50%. Alright, and next up we have Taunt. Obviously Taunt, minus 35%, Taunt for 8 turns. If you look at all his kits, it's actually really similar to one unit we have right now, which we already have access to right now, which is basically Iris. Alright, so Iris hits skip, cross tile, she deals advanced charm, she also can reach 100% defense if enemy who have advanced charm dies. She does not have stats weakening, she has DOT immunity. So yeah, if you are already working on an Iris, or if you already have one at high skill level, there's no need for you to recruit this guy at all. Yes, his skill might be able to work on World Boss because it's a Stigma kind of thing. It might work in certain stages of Evil Castle if the enemy is not immune to attack interference. They won't get affected by Iris, but they will get affected by this guy. But in most scenario, in most cases, if you are just running, planning to recruit someone to run in Novice, he's actually a solid unit, but if you already have Iris or Belasier, I don't think you want all three of them in the same team. I'm not saying that wouldn't work. It could work, obviously, but it's just you don't really need him. Alright, if you already have Iris, they both fit in most players' formation, they both fit a very similar role. So there's no need for you to have this guy already. But again, it's just my opinion, alright? Calm down, it's just my opinion. Okay, so next up we have Floria and Mora. So both of these are pretty straightforward. They are pretty strong actually. Floria probably is the most interesting one out of all the batches of units coming out in April. For me personally, that is. Yeah, I feel like she's a very flexible supporter, can be used in a lot of various game modes. I've already done a deep analysis on both Floria and Mora, so if you guys want to check this out, I'll try to place links in description. As always, that's where you want to find most of the infos are right there. Okay, so I'm not going to go too deep on Floria because since I've already done a deep analysis on her, but basically at plus 12, I feel like that's the good stopping point. She has the ability to increase HP, which is insane. Alright, so no other supporters have the ability to do so. So she has this very special increased vitality skill, and remember, it only affects supporters, warriors, and defenders. It does not affect magicians at all, so it won't work on mages, so do keep that in mind. But other than that, I would say she's a pretty flexible unit. She does provide debuff immunity as well, and she does give insane amount of HP regen, alongside with this buff can be refreshed, which is insane. Alright, so Floria is a must-have for formations that you want to deal with transport world bosses if her skill is not banned against the world boss. I'm not entirely sure on that. Right here, it did not say that the skills cannot be used on world boss, but yeah, we'll have to find out once she comes. But definitely, the question now is, should you pull for Floria? I would say for majority of the players, no, because here's the thing, right? One of the Octos that will be getting the companion is Belyav. So there's a chance that Belyav will be a better supporter that fits your team. Alright, so depending on who you might want more. So obviously it's going to depend on your lineup and your roster of formations and things of whatnot. It's hard to say that Floria will be better or Belyav will be better because we don't know Belyav's skills yet. But I would say just wait it out. There's a chance that Belyav will be a better supporter for your team, and ideally you don't want to be running 3 or 4 supporters, alright? If possible, you want to minimize the supporters that you have on your team so that you have either more offensive firepower or more defensive capabilities. So if you are minimizing that by adding more supporters and sacrificing warriors and defenders, I don't think you're doing your formation justice at all. So yeah, I would say wait it out, wait for Belyav's skills, then you can decide if you want to go for Floria. I don't think she will have a special banner or anything, so you can definitely sit her out for a bit. Once Belyav's skills are out, then you can decide, okay, if Belyav is a better supporter for you, you want to be saving all the diamonds you can and go all in on Belyav as opposed to a Floria. Okay, so of course we have to talk about Mora as well. So Mora is definitely an interesting one. I would say she's one of the more solid 4-star units that they have released in a while. Alright, besides Iris of course. And will she impact the novice meta? I would say no, because her skills are more leaning towards the PvE side of things, and definitely it's not something that you can try to plan against. Maybe in something like an Underground or Guild Wars, she's usable for sure, and World Boss of course, but if you are setting her up for Novice, it's gonna be hard. She can achieve 100% defense though, which is good. Obviously, it's gonna depend on her loss rate. So that means she will need to lose a bunch of HP, either via receiving damage from the enemy, or either attacking the enemy and then consuming the HP every time she attacks, right? The first skill does have HP consumption right there. So you have to keep that in mind. She's not an easy unit to use, and I don't think many players are gonna go for her. I would say she's definitely skippable. She's not like a must-have, but that's not saying that she's bad, alright? I would say she's pretty decent. Okay, so let's move on. Now it gets interesting. Okay, so Ventana. Now this is something that most players will agree that she is worth building, right? For sure, Ventana, why not? Why not? Alright, so let's have a look at her skills again. So if in case you guys are still not in a loop, what does Ventana has? Why is she so strong? So Ventana can deal with Grand pretty much. Alright, so at plus 15, Ventana has the ability to deal fixed damage. Depending on the enemy, if the enemy has taunt or concentrated fire, it's gonna deal insane amount of damage, which is crazy. Alright, so not to mention that she has debuff immunity, 1 turn before she attacks. Obviously she has concentration, which gives her bonus states when enemy dies. Crazy. Alright, and she has this thing called the island thing. So this is where it gets interesting. She deals fixed damage with this ability right here. Alright, the translation is not perfect obviously, but she can one-shot lots of units. I mean, like Angelica add-in, like those meta warriors who has 100% defense, now they are not that meta anymore. So granted that she is pretty balanced because she only has one tile range. Alright, so you're not going to like obliterate everyone in that entire line like Livia or Natus. You're still going to hit just one unit, which is why I think not many players go for her. If you guys watch my recent Korea top 10 warriors or something, like you notice that Ventana is not like in the top 5. She is in the top 10 if I'm not mistaken, but she was not in the top 5, which was surprising to me. Now, is Ventana worth building? Before the Octo update, I would say no, but right now, there's a chance that Seto might be good. Alright, so you have to keep that in mind. Seto is a warrior, and currently, as of now, Seto does have one tile range. At the end of the day, you want to ask yourself, do you want to build Ventana for just a couple of weeks? I think like 2 to 3 weeks before Seto comes out. Like for us, I think we will be obtaining all the Octo companions around May, maybe first or second week of May. So that's my prediction. I have a feeling Seto might be a better warrior overall. Now, there's no harm in building both of them, right? You want to build Ventana, you want to build Seto, and you can put both of them in your team. But here's the thing. Do you have enough resources to do so? Because if Seto is going to be better, you're going to rage quit. You're going to regret not listening to me right now for building Ventana. Alright, so they are both very similar. Alright, so yes, Ventana does deal insane amount of damage to enemy with taunt. But Seto deals fixed damage, we know that. And Seto is a skip tile, and we all know that. Ventana, while she is good, she needs the enemy to taunt first. And then if enemy doesn't use any taunters, then you're just going to end up hitting Lucius, which are usually placed in front. Whereas Seto is going to see perhaps more usage right there. So I would say wait first, don't rush, alright? Listen, there's no point in rushing getting Ventana just for 1 or 2 weeks before Seto comes out. Just wait for a bit, look at Seto's skills once it's available, and then you can decide if you still want to go for Ventana. But right now, I don't know, man. Seto is like looking like a much more tempting choice of a warrior than Ventana. Alright, I'm not saying Ventana is bad. Again, she might fall out of beta like 2 weeks after. Alright, there's a chance that it will happen. Obviously, the ability to get rid of taunters will always be useful. But if you are struggling with Albion, for example, Albion formations, just get a Yuri at +0. You're gonna be able to do it just fine. Yuri +0 consistently kills Albion, like I mentioned earlier. So definitely, I don't think most players will need Ventana. Yes, fixed damage is really cool, but hey, Seto is a fixed damage abuser too. I mean, like, it's looking really tempting. Alright, so next up, we have Valtor. Now this gets interesting. Ideally, I would say skip, but Valtor is a pretty decent unit and very hard to deal with. Now, Valtor is not immortal. Just to let you know, I've seen Valtor die before to Angelica or Adin still. And of course, Livia is coming. So I'm pretty sure Livia is going to counter every Valtor user out there. So if you want to build Valtor, you have to take into consideration that he might fall out of meta. Alright, I know plenty of players have been saying good stuff about his companion that is stick and waifu and whatever. But here's the thing. Valtor has Nullifier. Now this skill is pretty unique. A reflective Nullifier similar to Mamone's one. And has the ability to increase HP. Okay, again a very good skill for sure. You know, if you do not want Floria, Valtor can work on his own. Obviously Floria's buffs will not work on Valtor because he's a mage. And of course incoming damage, crazy stuff, and the OT immunity. Now here's the thing. When the Octo companions come, if we are following the courier, we will be getting this particular thing right here, which is the 5-star mage, which is the 5-star magician selection ticket. And Valtor is one of the options right there. If you want Valtor, I would say pick him right there and don't build for him. Just save your resources. Alright, save your resources. Wait for the companions to come out. Again, wait for all the Octo companions to come out. just get your Valtor +9 from there. Hopefully that will help you elevate some of these skill books. Again, if you are new, maybe +9. Let me check for you guys. All right, +9, is it enough? Is it enough? It looks like it's going to be strong enough. A +9 Valtor, 90%. Yep, I think a +9 is usable for sure in arena. If you are trying to climb, maybe usable up to crystals or fire leak. Pretty sure it's usable. All right, so don't need to spend extra diamonds for the companions. All right, just wait it out. Wait for all the octos, and then you can decide from there. But overall, that's my recommendation for you guys. If you pull out the list right here, the only 3 viable options would be to pick either Valtor, Kelleron, which is a little bit out of meta right now. Still useful in certain various other game modes outside of PvP, of course. We're talking about Evil Castle and of course World Boss and stuff. And the other option would be Freesia. Okay, so again, I'm gonna have a Freesia video coming real soon, so please watch that video before you decide if you want to pick Freesia from here. Okay, so that would be like maybe tomorrow. I need to edit it. Plenty of videos to edit, man. You can only edit so much videos in a day, so bear with me guys, especially this video is getting long. All right, so I would say my suggestion, skip Valtor. If you want, pick him up from that ticket that you will have. Okay, so the last one will be Ebony, I believe. Ebony, I've looked at her skills before. I've done analysis on her. I don't think she's that strong. I mean, she's not bad. Definitely a good substitute if you do not have a Serendia. But I have a feeling that majority of the players out there pretty much already built a Serendia. I mean, you could tell me if I'm wrong, but yes, Nullifier is kind of a good skill to have for sure. But in Novice though, that's the problem. Like Novice, do you really need Nullifier? Granted, she does give pretty high firing power for attack, crit rate, crit damage. Now she might be a good substitute if you need if you use units that relies a lot on crit damage, like Talos. Alright, whereas Serendia only gives crit rate and an attack. So definitely an option, but I wouldn't say she's high priority. Definitely Ebony, she's gonna be... I feel like she has a very minor upgrade. I was expecting more. I was expecting her to at least get the 3x3 tile similar to Serendia, but no. She still has that cross tile, so still gonna be hard to set up against. So she's gonna compete against Hunwald in Novice Arena, which is already a very solid 3-star. One of the best supporter you can have right now. Like literally gives you crit rate, crit damage, and attack as well. For Serendia, the upgrade is just a Nullifier. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's actually useful in the Novice. Maybe in certain occasions, in certain setups, yes, you can remove those annoying Lulu's buffs just to counter Lulu formation, but I don't see much Lulu formations anymore nowadays. So definitely I would say she's a skippable unit for sure. You don't really need her, and you can still do well in a Novice without any of the 4 stars released in April. Alright guys, so that's gonna be it for this video. I know it's a rather long one. Alright, so I'll have more guides for you guys hopefully tomorrow. Stay tuned on the channel. Again, I literally have 4 or 5 videos in queue waiting to be edited, so bear with me. Alright, so I'm gonna end the video here. Thanks a lot for watching. Let me know if you guys agree with my opinions on each of these mercenaries, and if you disagree, that's fine. Everyone can have their own opinion. Alright, so let me know your reasonings in the comments below. I'm curious to hear from you guys as well. As always, subscribe, give this video a like. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.